As you saw from the video, these protests are stemming from a fire that killed 10 people in a residential high-rise. And the people of China, they just not sitting back taking that, they taking to the streets. And the protests have put a spotlight on how China is handling COVID in the country. Frustrations over mismanagement and arbitrary coronavirus restrictions have escalated into protests across China in recent days. Authorities earlier this month announced that testing and quarantine requirements would be relaxed, but a record number of cases soon after prompted many major cities to confine millions to their homes. And we can really understand why people are so frustrated. And here are the factors of China's zero COVID policy. There it is. China's COVID policies. Local authorities must impose strict lockdowns. Mass testing is carried out in places where cases have been reported. People with COVID are isolated at home or placed under quarantine at government facilities. Businesses and schools are closed in lockdown areas. Shops must also close except for those selling food, and lockdowns last until there are no new infections, none that are reported, that is, and that's coming from BBC News. And these policies have really affected millions of people in very brutal ways. Tens of millions of people have been living under some kind of lockdown. Some local authorities have taken extreme measures, such as forcing workers to sleep inside factories so they can work while quarantine. I'll be damned. And this is from earlier this month. Residents spent last week pleading desperately for food as they suffered through the latest of the country's stringent lockdowns in the central province of Henan. Migrant workers have abandoned a lockdown Foxconn factory in mass, walking for miles to escape an outbreak at China's largest iPhone assembly site. But let me just say this, we are all connected, and if we did not understand that before, especially in our lifetime, the COVID-19 pandemic has reminded us of that or introduced us to how connected we all are. So y'all saw the iPhones, many of us have iPhones, knowing that folks are working their hearts out and also faced with either contracting COVID, all to put together some damn iPhones. All right, we need to get our priorities straight. Glad to see the people of China, Jessica, standing up and fighting back.
Yeah, it's really good to see that many people in the streets for something like this, because here in the United States at the beginning of COVID at Amazon warehouses, they had regular employees testing as they were coming in and out. They had regular employees with no healthcare training, administering COVID tests to masses of warehouse workers. And Pushan Brown, who is responsible for testing, complained to management and said, hey, I have no training, I have no PPE, and you're having me test hundreds of workers coming into work every day. I'm scared that I'm going to get COVID. She ended up dying in her 30s, her early 30s. And so conditions like this happen in the United States as well. And there's a happy medium when it comes to making health policy and public policy around epidemics and pandemics. And you can provide tests for all of these people without forcing them to be locked down in the warehouse or forcing them to go to work in unsafe conditions. And this is what happens when you have governments that are not interested in protecting their people and are instead interested in having the economy run, profiting in GDP over literal human lives.
Yeah, unfettered greed. This is what it gets us. We will keep an eye on this. This is global. These work conditions, how workers are treated or mistreated, is a global disgrace.